Hello humans, Master DinnerFlax here, bringing you the low quality content you deserve, and today I'm going back over my Lair of Darkness deck. Now, this one, there's a few cards I'm missing in real life, but that's because I've been testing some new things, and it's weird because the spirit of the deck is still there, but for the most part, it's a lot more, it's even more anti-meta than it really was originally. Just because I got to the point where I realized you just want to kill your opponent as fast as possible. And I noticed that with the lack of hand traps I had in my deck, it was getting to the point where I was getting snowballed turn one to stupid like Goki or Sky Striker, and I was like, I'm done with that. If you want to do this, I'll play your game. I'm going to play 11 to 12 hand traps, and I'm just going to roll your shit in. And so, yeah, that's what I did. And the difference is, this deck searches hand traps because of the Sangan Ties combo. So let's get into it. Something I've been testing is a Psy-Frame package, but instead of just 3 Gamma, I also included Delta. Now, Delta is really cool because it hits a lot of cards like Goki Rematch and Engage, and it's really good against Goki Rematch because if they have Midfield Breaker, then almost all your hand traps are worthless. But when you, like I said, when you hit that, or you hit a high impact card like Desire, Soul Charge, Engage, it actually just puts them really far behind, and just being able to search in between either of these for the matchup is insane. And then the Garnet for it really sucks. I was actually thinking about putting Eradicator back in because you can, if you have these on field while you have Lair, you can tribute this so it saves itself from banishing, and you get to hit all the spells out of their hand. That was cute, but again, the viruses are super inconsistent in this deck. So we got 3 Ash Blossom, 2 Ogre, and 1 Baylor. Baylor is more of a catch-all that you can play by searching Sangan, and that's kind of fine. You don't really need 100,000 hand traps when you're searching most of them. And the reason I play the Psy-Frame traps, even though they're only good going, quote, second, if you don't have Lair, there's no reason for you to keep your monsters up, especially if you don't even have ties, because that just means you're going to have to tribute your monsters for their own effects, so you're clearing the field yourself. And if you have a Psy-Frame in hand, just don't play Lair for a little bit, if you don't have any tributors. But if you have a tributor and Lair, like if you have Lilith and Lair, you don't need to activate the Psy-Frame hand traps because you are already winning. So yeah, that's my reasoning with this. Then for the artifacts, we got 2 Scythe, 1 Beagle Tech, another Garnet. I really hate this card, but I felt like it was necessary because I kept drawing into one of my artifacts, and I felt if I could make a power play like Durandal or Pallades when I draw into an artifact, that'd be good. But the reason I don't like it is not only does it make Sanctum lose to especially more hand traps now, like Impermanence, Ash Blossom, but it also now loses to Called by the Grave because you're hitting your own stuff. And I absolutely despise that about Beagle Tech. But at the same time, if you are worried about that, you can always just go for the artifact you want to go for anyway and just skip the Beagle Tech for a bit. Because you are playing 6 copies of Sanctum, so it's not like impossible to see more than one Sanctum. And then for the Lair engine itself, we got 1 Diabolos. This card's insane. I cut the Malefic Stardust Dragon and the BLS. The BLS I could actually put back in, it'd probably be good, but the Malefic Stardust, again, it's one of the things I always wanted to move away from the dependency on Lair and Lair of Darkness, because it's ultimately a crutch, and if you are using that crutch so much, eventually you'll just realize you can't win. For that reason, Malefic Stardust was the exact same reason. You had to have Lair to play it, and I was just done with that, so. But Diablos, you're all aware, he outs Diabolos himself, he outs an established Borreload, he outs so many things without Lair, and then with Lair he outs everything, and he's just nuts. This card's insane. I only play one of them though because yeah, you're missing out on the 2 Diabolos cycling themselves out of the graveyard, but the reason I don't do that is because playing multiple Diabolos makes it to where it loses to Called by the Grave, Reborn, and the Shark Cannon, I believe. Yeah. You never want to leave Diabolos in your graveyard unless you are trying to win the game immediately. But for the most part, you always want to keep them on field as long as possible. Arima searches Lair, searches Diabolos, and gets you draws in the late game, which is always really powerful. And then 3 Lilith, the best card in the deck. And the 3 ties target, Sangan, Skarm, and Tour Guide. This one's really cool with Pleiades, because after you summon out your Lilith, while you have Pleiades up, and then you activate Lair, you just get to recycle it. You'll have Lair attributing their stuff for no effect, but you'll also have Pleiades online too, which is nuts. 3 Lair Darkness, 3 Ties of the Brethren for the only spells. And for the traps, we got 3 Sanctum, 3 Back to the Front, and 3 Compulsory. And Permanence is actually, like, at first I was playing it and I realized, oh god, I hate this card. Like, it is a better Veiler, and it is searchable with Lilith, and you can even set it in a problem column you're worried about. But good god, I hated drawing that card. It was so not impactful, and like, even though it was a catch-all like Veiler, and it was a way to stop a negation monster, it was just so bad. I couldn't believe it. It was a waste of time. So I just cut it, and replace them for 3 replace some stuff for far more powerful hand traps in that scenario. So 3 Sanctum to get to your artifacts, 3 Back to the Front. This allows you to stay in the game for a really, really long time. You can revive artifacts to stun, you can revive Lilith to tribute, Arima to tribute a monster, and then summon Diabolos and just win from there. Just like, this card's insane. It's very, very important. And 3 Compulse, probably the best trap card in here. It has so much utility, just infinite utility in this deck, and I love it. And the last trap, this isn't like a real trap. It's just something I'm considering and testing a little bit. Bright Future. Since I'm playing so many Psy-Frames, and you actually search them a lot, and this is a slow deck, once you lose your driver, you're actually kind of like in a not great position. Because now you're saying 3 cards in your deck are dead, especially since the fact that it's a slow deck that draws cards slowly and it searches and deck thins and searches hand traps. So I decided I'm going to play one of these, I have a chance to hit off Lilith, and it puts driver back in my graveyard with another Psy-Frame, and I get a draw for doing it. So yeah, that's what I did there, and it's actually been alright. I like it. The only problem comes up if they see it once, what they'll do is they'll attack over the Psy-Frame hand trap and let my driver banish itself, and then that's kind of an issue. But yeah, it's been pretty good so far. For the extra deck, the Mega Fleet, just because I wanted an extra slot in my side deck, so I just put it in the extra. This was originally Omega, but you only make synchros when you like with either a Psy-Frame hitting Ash Blossom when you search Lair with Rima. But in those scenarios, or the other scenario is that use an artifact in a level 3 hand trap. But in both those scenarios, there's never a time where I wanted to make Omega over Stardust Dragon. Ever. Stardust Dragon's insane. The fact that not only does it tribute itself, and it tributes itself as a dark monster with Lair up, but it protects Lair from Ghost Ogre. It protects your field from like Twin Twisters and all this stupid garbage. This card's just actually insane. It was infinitely better than Omega. So for the rank 5s, we got Durandal and Pleiades, probably the best one. It's just Compulse, but it's also Compulse for like spells and traps, so it's even more like even more infinitely of a utility than Compulse. I love Compulse-like cards because they're just New Age Book of Moon. For the links, we got Cerberus, Griffin, Phoenix, Unicorn, 2 Link Spiders just because I want to get tokens off the field and turn them into something a little more useful. One of these is actually a Wee Witch, but I just forgot to put it in my extra deck, really. 1 Pentastag, I really like this because you're giving them tokens, and if you just summon a big monster and make this, you just pierce over it and you can kill them sometimes with it. I actually really like this card in Dinosaurs too, because it means instead of your Conductor doing 1,000 to defense, it does like 25 to 3,000 damage per defense monster, which is really cool. I believe it does that. It might just burn them mandatorily, but I am pretty sure you can pierce them. But anyways, Power Code Talker, this is better than Boral Sword Dragon in this deck, just because it uses less monsters and it can use tokens, and I don't feel like putting a bunch of Link Spiders and Proxy Dragons just for a Boral Sword, because even when you're in an ideal situation to make Boral Sword, you probably already have an OTK up, because this deck doesn't control that many monsters at once. So it's just like Boral Sword was kind of useless. Borreload, also kind of useless. I've always said that if you can make a Borreload, you can already out a Borreload. But at the same time, I just wanted to have it, not even to use it. It was more to have it just so my opponent will be discouraged from summoning it just randomly and not tactically. Like, if they just summon it, turn 1, like, you can't out this, and then I just, like, yeah, I can. I'll show them the Borreload in my extra deck, and they're like, oh. It's like, it's a discouraging factor to keep people from summoning Borreload stupidly. But ultimately, even that's bad reason, because they just summon it like, you can't out this. And I'm like, okay, Compulse. And then they scoop. Bomber Dragon, I should have been playing this a while ago. I don't know why I wasn't. This card is nuts. I just completely forgot this is a token generating deck. So whenever you summon a Lair token, you just nuke the field afterwards. This card's actually really, really cool. And it also makes artifacts into, like, if you summon a Scythe with this up, not only are they locked out of their extra deck, you also Regeki them. So that's pretty cool. And then Gumblar Dragon. There was a small little combo I did with this not too long ago where I had 2 artifacts up and I XZ summoned into Pallades because they destroyed Lair, but I used Lair tokens to make it. So Gumblar activated. I had 1 card in hand. He had 1 card in hand and 1 card set. Gumblar activated. I chained Pallades to return his set card to his hand, then tossed my hand and tossed his, and he was out of the game. He just scooped afterwards, and that was really cool. For the side deck, the 3 Cyber Dragons for the Mega Fleet. You can also just side this against like Altergeist, and they have to spend like 20,000 cards to out a fucking Cyber Dragon. It's really funny. Shaddoll Fusion and the 2 Shaddolls and the 2 Windows. This is for, it's really universal against anything but stun. Like, the Beast gets you a draw to try to get you to more of your side deck, but Dragon is a side deck out answer in a way. And this is really cool because, like, if you're going against Sky Strikers, turn 1, you can, like, pop one of their back row and then summon a Winda. And they can't out it with their removal. They have to out it with Widow Anchor. But if they're outing it with Widow Anchor, you still have played 1 card, and you still have a 5-card hand to deal with the rest of it. And if they take it with Widow Anchor, then that turns the rest of them off. So this card's actually insane. If they don't take it, then you just tribute with it, like with Arima. And then they have to deal with the Diablos afterwards, and they're probably not going to. And then 3 Heavy Storm Duster and 1 Dust Tornado. This gives Lilith not only a 100% chance to get back row removal once, but it guarantees a 100% chance of back row removal twice. Well, I say that unless you draw multiples, but if you draw one, you still have a guarantee of getting to another one. And if you draw two, well, then you just don't need to search the other one. And, like, against certain decks like Sky Striker or Altergeist, Compulse, while it is fairly okay against them, back removal is usually just stronger against them. So, yeah. And finally, Moral Talk. This is for Rogue and Stun. Like, if they're not using the extra deck very much, I'll just side out both sides and Beagle Tech, and I'll put in one Moral Tech, so I'll just have 2 artifacts for my 3 Sanctums, which is fine because you'll just be killing them anyway. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and yeah, that's about it. I just wanted to show where I was at so far. The ties targets for the level 4. If you still want to play them, which sometimes I really do, I really miss Card Guard Barrier Statue. You can cut the Bagel Tack and the Delta for them again, and then you just cut this, which I'm probably just gonna either cut this or find room for it later anyways. But if you want to do that, it's totally fine. So yep, that's about it. Thank you all for watching, and remember, Master DinnerFlax will take your soul.